Sure.
special meeting?
On Thursday night, Town Council received actually a really exciting email about a new sports complex facility that's being proposed, or that's what it was, the impression was, that's being proposed as part of a larger wildlife protection proposal that the Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority was submitting to the Parks Department for funding under Measure A. And I know that there's several funding opportunities taking place over the next couple of weeks. All the proposals, I think, are due this week. And part of this is, it's going to be, this is what we understand, would be wildlife corridor set aside, and then 30 acres would be a sports complex that would include soccer field, football field, track, and facilities and parking. And we understand that there was a website put up called actonsportscomplex.com that residents have been directed to go look at, and it's beautiful. So when we learned about this, the email came in Thursday night, but we didn't see it, notice it until Friday morning. So we immediately reached out to MRCA, Mountains Recreation Conservation Authority, and Supervisor Barber's office in the Parks Department to learn more about it, because the comments that our understanding was the comments were to be in by today. So if the active town council wants to support projects that are good for our community, so we want to be able to comment on it and provide comment on it. So the only way we can do that, though, is if we put together a meeting to vote on the matter and vote to support it or vote to ask questions about it or what have you. So that's why this meeting was so last minute, and I apologize for that. We came up with it on Friday night and then did some outreach over the weekend and then more outreach today. And I thought maybe Mr. Rach, I don't want to say Rachel. I apologize. I don't. But so we invited Mountains Conservation Recreation Authority and Supervisor Barber's office, because it was called the Catherine Barber Sports Facility, I think is what it was called. To talk to us about it, right?
Yeah. No, I would say close enough. I think
it's whatever they want to
yeah.
Oh, okay. So we just so that we can have as much communication with all the stakeholders, the parks, and we invited parks too. And it was just too last minute, I think, for people in the rain. So anyway, but Mr. Rach kindly agreed to come and talk about, you're the property owner's representative.
Correct.
Talk about the project so we can understand more about it, if that's...
Sure. Well, again, really appreciate you giving me an opportunity to come in last minute. I apologize that this was kind of also last minute as far as, attaining support for the Measure A proposal and acquisition of the property. So, to give you an idea, so our agency or our organization, we partner with various state organizations and work with them in rehabilitating, preserving, and conserving property that's environmentally sensitive. This particular property is the property next to the Sierra Youth Complex, right next door. And there's a number of endangered species in the area, environmentally sensitive wetlands, watershed, and the like. And part of the goal in funding these types of projects is to prevent additional development that's going to harm the environment, rehabilitate, bring back the natural wildlife, preserve water conservation as well. And in doing that, if we could also provide a recreational opportunity, then we kind of accomplish the pyramid of goals associated with Measure A and various funding opportunities. So we've been in contact with Dean Pewitt, who happens to be the president of Sierra Youth baseball fields, and we allow them to park on our facilities free of charge, and he's been asking for additional space to provide more parking and potentially additional opportunities in that area. So we thought it would be a good opportunity just to gain an idea of what kind of community support would be for a project like this. We believed that Catherine Barger's office might be interested in this, along with Parks and Recreation as well. And in coordination with Measure A, the county funding, there's also state funding. So again, all the goals associated with this type of funding, this would be accomplished with this property. Having spoken with Dean, he mentioned that there were a number of other supporters in the area that would be interested. Vasquez High School officials, as well as other official, I believe the softball program, and some other, I believe AYSO as well, out here would be interested in providing more of a comprehensive sports complex. So we're really at the very much beginning stages of this process, and as you know, the state and county, they tend to like to move rather slowly. But the first step in being able to accomplish this would be the acquisition of the property itself. And currently the property is in escrow with the state, and they're also looking for the Measure A funding in order to complete the acquisition ultimately. As far as not limitations, but being that this property is in a significantly ecological area, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what a SIA is, there's lots of challenges associated with it. The linkage between the Angeles National Forest and BLM properties, this would complete a wildlife corridor that would be able to allow for migration of animals, as well as one of the big things too that the Sid County is interested in Parks and Rec specifically are the network of trail systems for hikers as well as equestrian. They're very excited about that opportunity, and something that we're in the belief that this is something they really want to move forward with sooner than later.
So is it your organization that's submitting the proposal?
So actually, the MRCA is actually submitting the Measure A application for the acquisition component to this. So they're submitting it. Now they have, this again was very much a preliminary stage, and again wanted to gauge what kind of community support was something that they'd be interested in, and then to present this to the various stakeholders.
So has MCRA agreed to the type of sports facility with the football and the track and the soccer?
So they support, according to what can be done in a SIA, county would have impact on that as well. So this was again preliminary support to gauge their interests as well, so it's the communities, but also to see how much MRCA as well as the county are willing to expand this concept. Again, this was strictly just a process to gain support, to see the community if this was something that we need.
When you say this, you're talking about the MRCA acquisition or the sports complex?
The acquisition and the sports complex. So the acquisition have to come first, and then the sports complex. If MRCA and the county supported that, then there are various organizations that help with the fundraising of that.
So MRCA hasn't committed to support?
Correct.
Has MRCA built a sports complex before? Because I'm a little curious, the linkages project that they referred to, I couldn't find any information on it. Or the MRCA building any kind of community access.
So this, the MRCA is generally the stakeholder and kind of the manager, property manager of these properties. They personally would not be the ones who would be building this. As I said, they are 100% support the trail systems, both equestrian and hikers, as well as the additional acres necessary for the parking for
Well,
the
I
baseball
know that
fields.
they own that, there's a big piece of property down in the riverbed that they acquired, and they cut it off, so they're not allowing any equestrian use on it. That's why I'm grateful to hear you saying this, because we've been trying for months to try to there are trails across it, but they haven't been letting people use it. So, you know, we just want to make sure that the community knows that this is going to be a sports complex, or it's not going to be a sports complex, but it could be, or MCRA has not agreed to it, and they should know that before supporting it. You
Correct.
know what I mean?
So, as I said, at MRCA, they have not been formally proposed on this, specifically the sports complex.
So they're not even aware.
They are aware of it, but it hasn't been formally presented to them.
Can you speak to what reception, I mean, or were they like, did they sound amicable, like that might be something?
He said that that would more than likely fall on the county, Parks and Recs.
But won't MRCA own the land? It'll be,
So they generally will be part of the purchase, and many times they then will, not redistribute, but will retitle it to various local county agencies, Parks and Rec, for example.
so do they have in there, so I just want to make sure I really understand. The proposal, is that the one that's going in this week for money to buy this land?
It's going for the acquisition of the property with Measure A funds.
So do they have a plan, like, okay, after we get the property, we're going to give it to Parks and Recs, or we're going to give it to, because they usually keep their own property, that's why I'm trying, they own all that, Hauser Mountain and all the riverbed.
Sure. It depends on other local agencies and their interest in it. Not all properties are, desirable by a particular agency. So not necessarily. So again, but they have and they do allow other agencies to ultimately take responsibility for the land. For example, they're just the managers and property managers of, I believe, Townsend, to give you an example. But that is I believe, the county property.
Okay.
Okay?
But that detail is not in their proposal, like, they're just gonna get the land and then decide to whom to give it later, or?
Correct. That just depends on who else participates in the acquisition. As I said, Measure A funds are ideally going to be used for the purchase as well. Ideally, that's what they're submitting the application for. If the county wants to take that property on, they're more than happy, 100% to. There's no
To
incentive.
give it to the county? Okay.
Sure, absolutely, 100%. If the county wants to take it over, they'd be more than happy to allow them to take it over. But we have significant interest, not only by the county, but by MRCA for the trails and the equestrian. Now, I can't speak to what they'll allow in the river portion of it, but there's 130 acres. The entire property is 130 acres, of which goes all up into the mountains and it connects to the forest. So there's an extensive network of trails that are coming through there that they would continue through. I don't know, again, I can't tell you specifically, what they'll allow in the river. I know that the river is very much protected.
Do you know, is it possible to get a copy of the proposal, so we could put it on our website so people will see? Because I know a lot of people have submitted letters of support, but it'd be good to know what's being proposed.
Didn't I send you that?
I don't, I think some of those letters of support were in support of a
Sports
field, not an acquisition of land using
with a
Measure A. So it's very, very confusing. Measure A is very confusing to me because the way they divide it up into the percentages, like Acton's going to get a certain percentage, we can do certain things. So my next question is any of our set aside Measure A money, the 15% for the park, the other portion of it, I'm not sure what the size of the
15% for maintenance, 30%.
The 30%.
Yeah,
Is any of that 30% going to go towards this project of purchasing this land? Or is this going to come out of the Measure A slush fund? And we're still going to have our 30%, which is only about $300,000 or $400,000 right now available for a project.
$148,000.
$148,000.
That's it?
I don't have the answer to that. What I do, my understanding is that there are additional funds allocated yearly. whatever's been.
Well, we're gonna get a certain amount of money every year. But my question is, if this project is approved and goes through, will it be using our little piece of the pie of measuring?
Yeah.
Sure.
Or what's the 50% grant?
So there's acquisition only budget and maintenance budget in measuring that I'm aware of.
Right, so we know it's not gonna be.
It's not obviously going to be maintenance. It won't come out of that.
But there's also local facilities.
Right.
And that's what our meeting is for 6:30. We're asking the community, what do you want to see? And the town council is working with the Friends of Acton Park to get community input on what park facilities do we want? Dog parks, splash, whatever. So, but that's after this meeting.
Sure.
So and we get $48,000 or something a year. That's it's accruing because we haven't asked for anything, and I don't think the Friends of Acton Park has asked for anything on it that I'm aware of anyway. And so that is separate from this grant money, right?
That's my understanding.
I'm confused. When I saw the email circulating in town, it said by today, we had to have signatures. We had to have signatures for today. So people think this is a sports complex coming into town. But what you're saying is, this is just in the beginning stages. This may not. And who decides how we spend our money? I don't understand. I'm sorry, I just don't understand.
That's why we put this together.
Okay.
We invited MRC.
Because I think that people were signing things that they didn't know. And that is very telling to me that parent groups knew, sports people knew, teachers knew, but the town council didn't know. So, and I don't know why you all weren't,
Friends didn't know either.
and friends didn't know. So our entities in town, our governing entities who are a part of it, I mean, come on, this wasn't routed the right way. And I don't like the way it was routed. And so because of that, I'm a little suspicious. That's just me.
I got a call from a parent who was very excited about this project, about the sports complex.
Well, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, well, yeah, because it's beautiful.
Sounds great.
I thought MRCA put the ActonSportsComplex.com, I think is what it was. And people are very excited about that. And I assumed MRCA posted that website, but I couldn't know for sure. And I asked her to come. I don't see her here, but she had to go to Santa Clarita, and she was worried about coming back into traffic. So, anyway,
Were you able to see the letter of support, the copy of it, what the actual detail was in it?
yeah, I think on the last paragraph, I printed it out. I don't know if I brought it. Last paragraph, it said 30 acres is flat and already disturbed, and would be used to accommodate football, soccer, and track. So it would jive with the website. And I think that's what everybody, well, I don't know, that's the person I was talking about today.
So in the letter, it clearly says that this is acquisition only for Measure A funding in it.
Okay.
And
I didn't know what that meant, so I
Sure.
yeah.
And it said this is what we support. We would like this. Not that we're approving this is what's going to happen. And I apologize if there was any I didn't send out, I was just working directly with Dean, and he said he could get a few people to sign it, and I was like, fantastic. And it wasn't anything more, and then it kind of just became this much larger, that's why I wanted to come and talk to you guys and explain what specifically it is, and didn't want to, give you any, don't want to tell you all I know. And
Well, let me ask you something, because several weeks ago, when we learned about this grant opportunity, we reached out to Parks and Recs to find out if the community of Acton, could put a proposal together to get some of this funding, because we're seeing a lot of the money's going out to other places. I don't think we were asking, can you fund a project? We're saying, how do we get involved in this grant program? Because we're not able to write grants. The county had told us years ago that they were going to hire a special group within Parks and Rec to work with rural communities to write grants with them, because we don't know how to write grants, right?
Sure.
So when a key part of those grant programs is getting community support. And if you don't have community support, then supposedly RPOSD doesn't issue grants. It's like, so we were concerned that, you know, if it's something this big in the middle of our community, why did MRCA talk to us? You know, if they want community support for a project in our community, they should have like
It's kind of like what we do.
talk to us, or talk to Friends of Acton Park, or talk to the Women's Club, or talk to somebody. Do you know why they're not talking to us, or?
I have no idea. I'm not affiliated with them other than they're one of the stakeholders that intend to purchase the property, and again, their intention is the open space and the trail system. That I know that the county is absolutely behind, as far as I was told. But the open space is, you know, that's what is in their, you know, motto, I guess you could say.
The MCRA,
MRC, yeah.
Yeah, I would say we have I was hoping Donna didn't show up and read it, but she wanted us to read this if she didn't make it. So she said, to that, Town Council, thank you for contacting Supervisor Barber regarding MRC's Measure A. Funding applications for Measure A are competitive.
Slow down, please.
Yeah, I sure understand the word he's saying. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, let me read it.
Applications for Measure A competitive grant funds under the acquisition category are due October 30th. Measure A competitive funds are not reviewed or awarded by the Board of Supervisors or Supervisor Barber, but rather by the Los Angeles County Regional Park and Open Space District, RPOSD. RPOSD is responsible for managing and distributing Measure A funding. Additionally, these funds are for land acquisition only. It is our office's understanding that the Trust for Public Lands and the MRCA have been negotiating regularly with the property in order to acquire the property in question. This is not a county project. The County of Los Angeles has not been a party to those discussions. TPL and MRCA did not engage the supervisor's office nor the Los Angeles County Department of Parks and Recreation. A sports complex or active recreational facilities will require future county approval through the county entitlement, public hearings, and permitting process. Supervisor Barger has not endorsed or taken a position on this project nor lent her name to it at this time. Regards, Don Tremere, AV Senior Field Deputy, Supervisor Kathy Barger, 5th District.
That's what these read.
Okay. Well, let me make a recommendation. Let's leave this matter open and start the next meeting and hear what people have to say about what they want in our community, and then maybe decide whether or not we should support this or
I think that's,
what do you,
yeah, I think that's wise. I mean,
is that?
before we
Okay,
make a decision, have everything laid out.
okay. Would that be acceptable if we leave this matter open on?
I'm just me, I can't speak for Friends of Acton Park.
Okay, well, I don't think Friends of Acton Park would be opposed to that.
Yeah.
I'm hoping anyway. But,
Having all the options out.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
All right.
Great.
So are we going to adjourn this meeting and then open it back up to make?
No,
Let's leave it open.
Yeah.
Leave it open, just leave it open?
Yeah, is that all right?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Okay, so move to the next meeting, and it's supposed to be more informal.
Yes,
right?
this is informal,
So
yes.
we get,
Yeah.
and a lot of people in our community were not happy with the park needs assessment, because what the Parks Department did is they had a Monday meeting in, I think it was at the library. I couldn't make it, so I went to the one in Dulce, and they had things up on the wall, and they asked people to put, I think it was stickers about what they liked, different ideas.
There were 30 people at that meeting.
Yeah.
I was there.
Okay. And what they came away with was not a list of projects that people were particularly thrilled about in this community. One of them was redo the rubber surface at the park. There isn't even a rubber surface at the park. So they realized that there was a big disconnect between what people want in parks up in the rural areas. They don't necessarily need regional parks because we have this giant national monument right next to us. And so they wanted to reach out to rural communities and find out what the rural communities would like to do with the bit of funding that we get from Measure A. And because of COVID, none of the parks people haven't been able to come to any meetings in person. Mr. Lau, who's in the Parks and Recs Department, gentleman who's our rep, or our person we were talking with, presented at the ARTC meeting, which is a Zoom meeting a few months ago, and said that they're redoing this and they're reaching out to communities. And they put together a survey program, which we posted on our website, and we made several announcements at several meetings to please do the survey, and then that will give input to the parks on what we wanted. On top of that, we just learned, like, what, three or 4 weeks ago, they're trying to get community input, individual community input from individual communities on what they want in their community. And Mr. Lau, my understanding is he's putting the report together at the beginning of November. So the door for providing input is fast, the deadline is fast approaching. So when we learned that, that was about a week and a half ago, we said, okay, well, let's try to put a community meeting together and get some ideas together about what people want in this community for parks, so that we can provide input on some level. Otherwise, we have said nothing for our community. So that's what we're trying to do tonight. So we put this announcement out last week in the papers and tried to hit all the social media about this input. Plus, we were also asking people between now and I think it was Thursday or Friday to please provide comments, if you're not able to make the meeting tonight, to the Friends of Acton Park email or the Friends of Acton Park Facebook account, and to post comments on there, and then the Acton Town Council can work with the Friends of Acton Park, however they want to do this, to either provide the input from tonight and they can put it together with what they're going to receive from the public, or we can collaborate on it, whatever they want to do. But our goal tonight is to sort of get information from the community that is better reflective of what the community wants rather than what the county thinks we want as of today because of what was done in 2016. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what we're trying to do.
Is this entire meeting about the park? Are we talking about anything else today?
No, it's only
It's just about
Measure A and what we want to do with.
And it doesn't have to be about the park, it can be about what this community wants. So, you know, if it's equestrian trails, obviously it's going to be beyond the park, but we need to put that in to our comments. If it's a dog park or archery, or that's what we, so it is about the park, but it's not limited to the park. It's what this community wants for amenities for park facilities.
When would the next meeting be regarding the grow houses and those issues?
It's a regular meeting. This is a special meeting.
This is a special meeting, that would probably be November 1st.
November or something?
But there is, I don't think we have that on the agenda for them.
We can put it on the
We can put it on
agenda.
there.
If you'd like it, would you like it to be agenda?